everybody, and welcome back to the Good Day Matrix. My name is Daz, and I have the absolute privilege of sitting here today at Coffee Culture with the amazing Sacha Coburn. Thank you so much for having us today. Very, very grateful to be here. I met Sacha a couple of years ago, and I don't know if she'd remember the specific day, but I was part of the Sport Waikato leadership project or program, and she came into the room. We were also there. It was really early in the morning. Everyone was pretty flat. We'd already had a speaker that had spoken. And everyone was sort of, listening and writing their notes as they do. And then Sacha came like a ball of energy from the side of the room in and started singing to us, "Let's get it started." And I was like, whoa, and everybody sat back and you just felt this energy from you. And Sacha at the time said, "I bring to the room what the room needs." And I think that was a really strong message straight off the bat, that this woman is an energy force and we need to pay attention to what we're putting into our environment. Your kind energy and generous energy also is something that I've just adored over the last few years, over my journey of entrepreneurship and everything else. Sacha is an exceptional leader. She's the director and COO of Coffee Culture. She's the founder of the company You Keep. She has an LLB and a Master's in Education. She has the ability to catch every curveball that she's thrown and make something, find the possibility within it, find the opportunity, which again, I think there's huge learnings that we can have from Sacha today about all of those things. So thank you so much for your time today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
No worries. At the Good Day Matrix, we talk about wellbeing with 5 pillars. By no means is that all of the pillars. There's financial.
There's more pillars
put in there. We can't nail them all today, but we're going to talk about body, mind, identity, community, environment, because often we focus on body and mind and we forget that connecting with people and how we feel in environments actually all matter to our wellbeing as well. So we'll just weave our way through there today, and we'll start with identity. So tell us about your whakapapa and how you've got to here.
So I come from a long line of preachers. And when I say a long line, my dad was a preacher, and that's almost where that side of our family line stops. Oh. So one of the enduring truths of my childhood was that my dad didn't know his dad. And so I grew up in this incredible environment where my parents loved me unconditionally, and that's such a blessing for a child to grow up in an environment like that, and it was the same for my brother and my sister. But my dad wasn't basing how he parented us on the great parenting that he had. He was doing his best to be our father in the context where he had no concept of what being a dad would mean. So really fascinating now, he's just turned 80, and through a whole series of events, he's come to understand more about his father and the origins, but it means I can't go trace my family back very far at all. And on my mum's side, we go back a bit further. They were rural folk, they've got a farming background, and my mum was actually born in Cambridge, and I never thought I would live in Hamilton. I don't think anybody in New Zealand wakes up and goes, well, when I'm 50, hopefully I'll live in Hamilton. But I absolutely love it. I've lived here for about 10 years now, and it's an incredible place to be, partly because of the sense of community. And I have the sense that perhaps I've always lived here. And so when I regularly drive past the house that Mum was born in. It used to be a maternity hospital, and now it's like a lodge, a B&B. Yeah. And as I drive past it, I go, that's where my mum was born, and she begat me. And yeah, so our family is sort of Auckland, Waikato, Bay of Plenty, that golden triangle. Yeah. That's where we come from in a New Zealand context. Yeah. But it also means that Sacha Coburn is not the name I was born with. So it's this.
Wow.
I wasn't embarrassed at the time, but now when I tell the story, I think it's quite funny. I travelled overseas when I was about 18, and it's supposed to be a big OE, and I lasted 3 weeks, and I came home. So, woohoo, go me, seeing the world.
At least you tried. I
tried, right? I tried. And when I first went to some of those museums overseas, I'd go, wow, people know their family, generation, just going back for centuries. And I'm going to be 50 this year, so we had some kind of teaching around Māori culture when I grew up, but it wasn't extensive. So ironically, in New Zealand, also our culture, people can go back many generations, but within my own family, we couldn't. And so when I came back from overseas, I said, Dad, our surname is from your stepfather. And he was an asshole. So why have I got his name? You never, you don't love him. You don't know him. He's not our blood. He's not our kin. And when my grandmother died, she said to my dad, your father's name was Coburn. It was like this deathbed reveal. Wow. And so I grew up on this story. So when I came back from Europe, I said, right, I'm changing my name because that guy, well, he was a bastard as well, but he was ours. He's ours. And so I changed my name by deed poll when I was 19. All right, I'm going to claim my heritage, my sense of where I come from. Words are important to me. And it was years after that my dad, we were talking about my name change. Obviously, no one in my family followed suit. No one jumped on board. My brother and sister did not go, hey, us too. They went crazy lady. We were talking about it years later and Dad said, I think she said Coburn. It sounded like Coburn. So by then I had been practicing as a lawyer using that name. All my business cards, like my professional identity was with that name. And I didn't even know if it was ours. So we've just recently found out through all the genealogy work that's taken place that my dad's birth father was Coburn. So I'm like, oh, that is such a relief.
It's 50 going back to default. Sorry,
sorry, I got it wrong.
Just switch that out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's priceless. But totally, we spoke with Dan Walker a while ago on one of our interviews, and he can go back like 700 years through his whakapapa and like go to where his great-great-great-great-grandfather planted groves when he first came to New Zealand, and he gets to take his children there and stand in what was created. So it's really true, and we're the same with my family. My dad's side, I can get back to his parents' and then we don't know anything. My mum's brother has gone further back, but it matters to know who you are and where you've come from. Like the more you can, put your feet down and.
So I think yes and no.
Yeah.
So my yes is sometimes you visit a place and you have a real calm and peace and a sense that perhaps this is where you are from or this is where you belong. And I can't explain that, but I think it's real. That said, I just don't think we need to be defined by what's gone before. And for many people, their past and their family is a source of baggage and harm, and it's good to understand where you've come from, but it doesn't define where you are going. Yeah. So the opportunity every day to say, today is a new day. Yeah. Today I choose who I am in this world and I create my own path with respect to what's gone before, but not beholden to what's gone before. Yeah. I think those are some powerful ideas as well.
And it helps you know why you react in different ways, or it helps to know, why I feel uncomfortable when someone does that specific thing. It just, I think it all, it's pretty powerful. Identity is very powerful. I love that story, by the way. That is such a priceless story. So we'll move to body. And so you talk about how important it is to find things that you love when you're moving your body. So talk to us about any rituals or routines that you have around your body. Yeah,
well, I grew up moving, so I was a dancer and I played a little bit of sport. I was really short, so sport was never going to be something I excelled at. I actually pulled out an old netball photo the other day and I'm tiny compared to everybody else in the photo, and I know that there are little nippy players that are amazing. That wasn't my destiny. So I danced a lot, but my first job out of school was at Les Mills, and so I had this fitness career that I didn't intend to have. I wasn't aware of fitness. I didn't know about gyms really, but I got this job and I fell in love with what fitness does for people. Not on the cosmetic level, but on a deep internal level, that how people function in our societies when their bodies are healthy, they are better parents, better workmates, better lovers, better friends, if you have a better sense of balance in your body. Yeah. But I also see the real dangers of some of the toxic nature of the fitness industry. So I've always had this wrestle with, are we part of the problem that perpetuates body issues and ideals that are unhealthy? And yet we're part of the solution, which is that people need to move more. Yeah. So for me, I've had to come to terms with, what does fitness look like and feel like for me? What do I need to be fit for? And you may laugh. Here we go. I need to be fit for the zombie apocalypse because because now that I'm 50, I'm going to be 50 this year, what struck me is, if there's real danger, how would I go? How would I go in an emergency? And I'm embarrassed that I don't think I would hold up as well as I would like.
Yeah.
Let's say I had to run 5Ks to get out of danger. I'm just probably going to let the danger overtake me at about the 2K mark, because I'm going to run out of path. Find a hiding place, start to bargain, negotiate with the zombies.
Use your strengths.
Use your strengths, right? Talk myself out. And I don't think that's a great way to live. I think we should all live in a state where we go, whatever happens, we're good with it. If we need to lift something heavy. So for me, fitness is about, can I move and exist in time and a space in a way that's healthy for me? So I am having to challenge myself, because for the last few years I've danced, I play tennis. I love movement that is purposeful for something other than just doing the movement.
Yeah.
So if, for example, I went to a personal trainer and the trainer said, we're going to sprint high knee running 30 seconds, then we're going to do some ab work, then we're going to do high knee runnings for another 30 seconds, I just go, why though?
Yeah.
Why? So like 5 seconds into the high knee running, I'm like, oh, this is hard.
This is
I'm
running
not
from
sure.
the zombies.
Yeah, I don't get it. If I'm playing tennis and my husband puts a drop shot over the net, I'm like, screw you, buddy, you're not going to get me.
Yep.
And I'll take off and it feels more, that speaks to my sort of psychological need to compete.
Yeah.
So I've had to look for, in dance, I get joy from my movement and music. I extend and stretch, and that feels like I'm fully inhabited in my body. And if there's a sporting aspect that's competitive, it's great.
Yeah.
But I do have to challenge myself on my cardio fitness, because whether it's zombies or Christchurch earthquakes, we lived through those, and people needed to be able to get, not necessarily run, but walk long distances.
Walked a long
I know. I've been through a few things that just make me think, okay, you can do better.
Yeah.
So I'm working on that.
I love that. I've never actually heard of that and put that way, in terms of having a purpose, like not just running on treadmill for running on treadmill's sake, in terms of, but what is this contributing to long term?
See, what it comes down to, I reckon people who are good at that high knee running, good for them. Amen, hallelujah, you do you, honey. If you are after results in terms of how you look, you can do it.
Yeah.
High knee running, I will banish the fat from my body. I will be sexy. I will be amazing. Right? As soon as I start thinking what you need to do is high knee running to lose weight, I very quickly talk to myself about, who made you want that? Whose ideals are you chasing? Who are you listening to? And what that leads to is me saying, screw your high knee running. And so that's why I'm still a bit overweight and unfit. So it doesn't serve me either way. So you got to find the thing where you go, I can intellectually and philosophically believe that exercise is good for me, not because I buy into what society defines as being worthy.
Yeah.
And that's the balance I'm trying to find.
And it's literally what you and I talked about just before, of well-being is not a pill, it's not a size, it's not a pair of tights that suck everything in, it's...
Although those are good.
They are great. I wear those every time I train, to be fair. And anyway. But it's finding what makes you feel good, and knowing your purpose of why you're doing it is, and that's probably, we'll skip a question and come into this because it's beautifully put in there. You talk about radical self-acceptance of yourself and how other people need to do that as well. So talk to us about that and how you've come to that.
I think from those early days of having that unconditional love as a child really gives me a good platform for that, and that's a gift from my parents that I will always be grateful for. I think it's much harder when you've come from a childhood where you've been criticised for any number of things all day, every day. So I accept that some of the ways that I'm able to radically accept myself have come from my parents. Yeah. And I think there's also things that we can all do, irrespective of what our heritage has been, to just have healthy approaches to how we exist. Yeah. And so one of the things that I think is useful, but also we've got to be careful how we play that, is I started to think as I got older and I had some issues within my own body in terms of how it operated, i.e. I had aggressive breast cancer, and we lopped that boob off. And I had always thought, well, I'd already had quite small breasts, and I was like, I'll be a candidate for big tits one day. That'll be amazing. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I thought, right, here we go. Here's my perfect chance for a boob job. And once we were going through the cancer process, it became very clear that my cancer was reasonably serious. And so the boob job thing just fell off the radar for me, and my focus was get through chemo, get through radio, get through the ongoing treatment with Herceptin, and then consider what you want to do about how you look.
Yeah.
And by the time I'd gone through all of those treatments, how I looked became the least important thing, because I started to think about what defines me as a woman. So you took one boob away. Am I less of a woman now than I was when I had two? What if we took the other one off? Am I less of a woman? What if we took my ovaries out? Am I less of a woman? What if my arm? And I really started to think about who am I separate from my body?
Yeah.
And so I exist completely separate from my body. It's like if you cut my arms and my legs off, and like at what point you're not you anymore?
Yeah.
And I just came to this place where I was like, how I look is the least interesting thing about me. The least interesting thing about me. And I apply that to everybody now. So let's take politics as an example. People want to criticize how our leaders look. Oh, that one's got no hair, that one's got big teeth, that one's, looks young, that one's... I will never comment on a person's appearance, despite how sorely tempted I am on a daily basis. Because it's the least interesting thing about them. Yeah. And I think radical self-acceptance come where you say, how I look does not define me. Yeah. How I feel and what I put into the world and what I'm contributing, those are things that tell others how I am.
Yeah.
I don't find it easy.
No.
I have a lot of time, like even right now as we speak, I'm exhausted because I'm holding my tummy in. Because I don't want to look fat while I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm leaning forward because I'm going to look better if I lean forward than if I lean back. So all of those things still are true for me because society has these expectations of how we look. It's exhausting. Yeah. Being a woman right now is exhausting. Did you put some makeup on this morning?
I sure did.
Why did you put some makeup on this morning?
Not like bread in front of the camera.
Yeah, right. I put some makeup on this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a husband, right?
Yeah.
His name is?
Chris.
My husband, his name is? Chris. Did they put makeup on this morning?
No, they did not.
Why did they not?
He didn't even brush his hair. He just puts a hat on.
My Chris doesn't have hair, so that's okay. But as soon as you start to go, wow. So even on a really practical level, how long does it take your husband to get ready for work?
Throws his clothes on and leaves.
How long does it take you to get ready for work?
Half an hour.
That's wrong! I don't make the rules, but I'm trying to challenge them a little. Yeah. She says, holding her tummy in, trying to still look pretty. Okay? So I think we've got work to do to understand where our value is. Yeah. I'm not anti-makeup. I'm anti people telling me I look tired when I don't have makeup on. Bless. I'm like, it's been a hard life.
Yeah. There's nothing worse when you're actually feeling good and they're like, oh.
You're tired.
Yeah.
No, I'm old. I've had 74 children.
And dog years. Yeah.
So I think that the radical acceptance piece, I think you start by recognizing every time you say something unhelpful to yourself.
Yeah.
So I used to go, oh, your legs, they're a bit short and they're a little bit fat. Now I go, my legs are going to save me from the zombies. How amazing to have two legs that take me all the places that I need to go.
Yeah.
Thank you for the blessing of my legs. How lucky am I to have two legs?
Yeah,
and it sounds really cheesy, right? But jeepers, it's true.
Yeah. It's an awareness thing too, though, isn't it? Sometimes we get so stuck. Like, I train women, and our general thing has been, we're not here to lose weight. We're here to eat cake. We come here so we can eat the treats we want to eat. You know, like that's been one of the girls' like consistent things. She's like, I don't want to weigh in. I don't want you to measure me. I want to eat cake. That's what I'm here for. Like that's the general premise. But there's all these little things that start to creep in because we've been together now for like 5 or 6 years, and it's like, oh, this spare tire won't go away. you know, and so then we all sit there going, yeah, me too, and it's just these conversations, but it's actually understanding why are we worried about it? Like, who cares?
I got this theory that part of the reason that society wants us to be smaller is it's just that and making women invisible, just so that we just sort of don't take up as much space. And you know, one of the things that I've been criticised for as a child and as a young woman at work and as an older woman now is I've got a lot to say.
How you've talked about being outspoken and saying things, and you know, how do you, in terms of mindset, do that in a culture that does try and silence us a lot or have different opinions to us? How do you step forward and be like, no, that's not acceptable and I'm going to say it?
It's not easy.
No.
Okay, so let's start by saying and acknowledging it's not easy. One of the things I think it's really important, I think that the more powerful you become, the more incumbent it is on you to speak out.
Yep.
So there's less at stake for me now. So what I mean by that is I am essentially self-employed.
Yeah.
So, you know, my husband created and started this beautiful business before he met me.
Yep.
I've got to be a part of it now, and that's been a real joy and a privilege in my life. And what it means is I'm not beholden to anybody for a job.
Yep.
So if I say something and that upsets somebody who doesn't want to employ me anymore, I don't care.
Yep.
Right? I think it's much harder when you are navigating a pathway for yourself. That said, I think there's a lot that we can speak to without it being particularly radical. So I don't think it's a radical idea to say, let's play the ball and not the man. That's a really simple rugby concept, and yet people online go, play the man, play the woman, play the...
Yeah.
It's like we've lost all sense of decorum. So I sound old-fashioned when I go, could we just elevate the debate? So I don't think that's a particularly controversial idea, but it's incumbent on people to call it out.
Yeah.
And I love the Taika Waititi piece about give nothing to racism, give nothing. So every time, I mean, I've become a person who has very few friends now because I'm horrible to be around. Because if you want to say something that's remotely homophobic or that has overtones of racism, I'm just going to invite you to leave my house because I don't need that shit in my house anymore. Sorry, I get emotional talking about it.
No, and you should.
I love the story of this woman. A woman I went to school with. She won't remember me at all. Melanie Roger, her name is, and she owns an art gallery in Auckland. And her husband tells a story about they were at these other people's houses. They were guests at someone's house for dinner. And the conversation must have got to politics or issues of equality or equity or something. And she just stood up and said, I'm out. And they left. And on the one hand, you go, oh no, you know, we've got to be polite. And on the other hand, I'm like, where has polite got us?
Yep.
Polite has got us to the stage where people feel safe to talk rubbish.
Yep.
And I'm not here for that.
No.
I just want to protect my space and speak on behalf of others who is
100%.
voiceless. And I don't need to speak for them, but how can I create platforms for the voiceless to have a presence?
Incredibly powerful. And it's important to know too, when we often sit back, and I used to be this person to be like, I don't have an opinion on it. Well, just by me saying that,
You do.
it just helped the oppressor out.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And so I've learnt that now, and I do put myself in uncomfortable situations, not enough, but I do now, because if I sit there silently, or, you know, it's even with talks of people who are bitching about someone else, and you're like, they think I'm agreeing.
Yeah, they do.
Because I just smile and nod,
'cause
trying to get it to go
complicit.
away. Yeah, but I didn't say, here's some issues with what's going on here, or have you even talked to the person of, you know? So it's that kind of stuff. It's, use your voice as much as you can, put a light on things and just bring awareness. And if people don't listen, see you later.
And I do think there's an interesting kind of conundrum here about how you influence. So an example I can give you is we had friends over for dinner. We never have friends over for dinner. Must have been a barbecue, it wasn't dinner. And the subject turned to climate change. And there were some opinions expressed about perhaps it not being real. And I backed right away from the conversation. And the next day, Chris said to me, babe, it's a bit, I don't think he used the word rude, but he said, you really disengaged from that conversation. And, we were hosting and I think he was kind of just saying he was a bit embarrassed, or I don't know what it was, but it was like, he said, you just stopped. And I said, honey, I'd come to the end. We've had that conversation 50 times with those people. And he said, but you're really good at pushing back against people in a way that's kind and respectful. And, that's one of your strengths, is you don't get shouty. You just very gently put new facts in front of people. Yeah. I said, that's true, but I've done that 10 times with these people and we're not any further ahead. So what can I bring to and that's been a wrestle for me, because either I continue to get down and wrestle with the pigs, or how do you maintain your own boundaries in that? And I think that's an ongoing challenge, to not be the shouty person. You can't say that, with that we're tone policing people all the time, but it's exhausting doing the Lord's good work.
Amen. Oh, I love that so much. You talk about learning every day and the importance of learning every day. So talk to us about the neuroscience that sits around learning every single day.
So, I think I am committed to learning every day. I'm, when I talk about how you define yourself in your radical acceptance, every good thing about me exists here. Right? There's nothing going on down here that's for sale. This is not how I make my money. So how do you protect your brain? And one of the things we know is that our brains are dying. It's decaying all of the time. And so one of the ways that we combat that is we keep using it. And our brains are like cement machines. So you think about when you first got your driver's license and how hyper aware you were when you first drove the car. I don't know how old you are, but at my age, you learned to drive with a manual. So for that very first drive, it's like clutch in, move the gear stick, indicate, check the rear vision mirror, clutch out, accelerator, brake.
Yeah.
Hyper aware, hyper conscious of every single thing you do along the way. Now I can drive to Auckland and not even remember how that happened, because it's so autonomic and in my brain and in my body. That's because I have used a cement mixer to teach myself that pathway. It's cemented now. That's a good thing. Yeah. That helps us do stuff habitually that we don't have to be hyper aware of.
Yeah.
But it's also dangerous.
Yeah.
So if what we do is travel the same route to work every day, if we have the same meals and the same routines, we can get really stuck. And if this is a neural pathway, all the neurons on either side, they just start to die. If you're not using the part of your brain that teaches you about language, it just drops off. That's why it's so much easier for kids to learn 2 or 3 languages when they're little, because their brains are all firing. As adults, we've left those bits to lie dormant. So my commitment is to just be always learning, to give my brain the best possible chance of continuing to serve me. And that can be small things or big things. Yeah. It's Duolingo to pick up your schoolgirl French. It's learning some reo if that's something of interest to you. It's learning a new physical skill.
Yes.
Starting to, play tennis or learn pickleball or take up golf or anything you do that just keeps you learning. And for me, one of the things I force myself to do is understand what my intellectual opponents think about something. So when I say intellectual opponents, I am highly political. I think the political is the personal, and we're not going to talk politics, but I'm actively engaged in politics, right? Yeah. If I want to understand what people who think differently, I want to understand their points of view. And so I'm often reading, and my starting point in the morning is, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong about everything I think? Yeah. How would that force me to reevaluate my life? So I'm trying to stay open, because the older you get, we can become more certain of things. Yep. And that's dangerous.
Yeah, very, very stubborn in conversations, not naming Stan Evans. In terms of what we're consuming day after day, and literally now down to minute after, by minute, how do you stay really conscious of what you're consuming?
I'm really good at being aware of it.
Yeah.
I'm not so good at controlling it.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is I give too much of my precious time to scrolling Instagram and looking at TikTok and being entertained. And I think it's a form of opium for the masses, where we are distracted by little cute viral things, cat videos, puppy stories,
Yeah.
and that distracts us from some of the really important things that are happening in our world at the moment. So I try and bring my awareness to it, and I've got a saying that I want to live on purpose with purpose.
Yeah,
so
me
my friend,
too.
as Shane taught me this concept that everything we do, we just say we're doing this on purpose. So if I look at the donut and I go, I can eat that donut, on purpose, with purpose, I'm going after the donut.
Yeah.
Not that tomorrow I go, oh, I accidentally ate 2 donuts yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't accidentally anything. I deliberately and actively chose that course of action. So that's how I treat my inputs in terms of content as well.
Yeah.
So if I find myself watching video after video on Facebook, I'll have an awareness check that goes, are you purposely now choosing to spend another 15 minutes watching Graham Norton reruns because they lift your spirits?
They do.
Are you purposely choosing to do that, or is this 15 minutes spent better somewhere else? So I'm not nailing the execution of saying no to it.
Yeah.
But I am bringing more awareness to where my time is going. And I am really conscious of not consuming the stuff every day that actually just makes me angry.
Yep.
And so I recognize the anger. And in my postmenopausal body, I don't need any more additional cortisol, adrenaline. I get enough of that just from daily life. So for me, that's about curating my feed.
Yeah.
Probably, no exaggeration, 10 times a day, I'll be halfway into a comment and I go, back away. This is not your fight. Put the phone down.
Yeah.
You do not need to wade in here.
Yeah.
And I recognize my tendency to want to wade in on everything.
Yeah.
Name a topic, I've got an opinion.
We're ready to go.
Not everybody needs that.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move to community. So when we talk about community, and I think you've already touched on it really well, is it can be anything, a book club, the gym, rugby club, a walking group, anything that gives you that connection and that you're contributing into a space is your community. That's family and friends. So talk to us about the communities that you're a part of and the tribe that you've found along the way.
So the first thing I want to acknowledge is I get emotional talking about community. And that's because I think it's a lifelong quest to find where you fit. And I'm not there yet. There are very few places that I feel free to be myself. And the great irony about this, and I was reading Bono's autobiography at the moment called Surrender.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit in it that I was reading last night, and it just struck me like an arrow to my heart. It was like this truth bomb. And he said that for people who are performers or who are working things through, we tend to work them through on the stage. And he said, I am my most free when there are 50,000 people in the stadium listening to me sing. He said, it's the fullest expression of who I am. And I relate to that from my experience as a keynote speaker. You should never, as a keynote speaker, tell a story that you are not comfortable sharing. You are not there. So the audience is not there to serve your needs. So you should not be doing your therapy live on stage. So standing up and sharing your trauma stories and bursting into tears and have the audience make you feel better. That's not your role as a speaker. But there is something incredibly revealing and intimate where it is one person talking to 400 people at once. My sense of community, or my sense of this is what you were born to do, comes from those moments, ironically, in a room full of strangers. Often. Does that make any sense?
It does, because like I said to you, we came and saw you speak like a couple of months ago, and a person I brought along with me was literally on every word with you, feeling every emotion with you. So it totally makes sense, because you probably don't know you connected to that person, but that person absolutely connected to you.
And I'm connecting to everybody and nobody at that time, if that makes sense. So the reason I get emotional when I talk about it is because I don't have a really close group of friends, and I'm jealous. So that my ugliest emotion is jealousy, and it's not it's not like a uki jealousy, but there's groups of girlfriends and they've been friends for like 20 years and their kids all went together and they're off doing this and they're off doing that. And I'm like, I want a group of girls.
Yeah, I don't have that
but in actual fact, I probably don't, but I like the idea of that. So I've always sought my community actually amongst misfits.
Yeah.
So I used to be a really active member in my local community group, my theatre community group in Sumner. And we were a bunch of, you could not have got a more diverse group of people, but we loved to sing together, we loved to be on stage together. And I haven't replaced that in Hamilton yet.
Yeah.
I'm active in politics, so the political party that I support, I'm active with them. And again, a really diverse group of people. Party vote Green, by the way. So I have community there.
Yeah.
And I think one of the beautiful powers of the internet is the way that you can have community with people who are geographically different.
Yep.
So I belong to a community called Badass Bullets, fantastic pioneer of fitness in New Zealand, Emma Barry. She has a community. We meet once a month, and I love that. Yeah. And I was, it's been at least half an hour, and I haven't mentioned Harvard Business School yet. I won a Prime Minister's Business Scholarship to go to Harvard, and I've got a couple of communities of women and men from all over the world that share similar aspirations to do good and to do good on a global scale.
Yeah.
And so I get community from them as well. And I don't want to sound like a total dick, but I commune with myself. So I have moments where I go, what would Sacha like to do today? Sacha would like to take herself to the movies with her community of one. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Right?
So we'll move to environment. And so we talk about all kinds of things when we talk about environment. We talk about sustainability and the environment you create around yourself and home and work. But with you, leadership is going to have to be something we talk about because you are amazing. And then also talk around being in politics and that pull that you're also a business owner and trying to do great things for the world and the planet at the same time. And there's quite a pull there for you as well. So first of all, just talk about how you create an environment that takes care of all the things we've talked about today and really supports you to do those things and hold those values.
So I think the most important thing in terms of environment for everybody is the starting point that says, I am accountable for everything that is in my life and that I'm a part of. And the agency is, I have created this life for myself. And it's a radical concept to accept and believe. So we can't control what happened to us as children, and if we're here, we've survived. Yeah. We haven't necessarily thrived, but we've survived our childhood. As adults, every single choice we now get to make is a choice that is ours. Yeah. So if you are in a shitty relationship, do something about that because you are actively choosing to stay. If you are actively choosing to stay because you think your children will be happier living with both of their parents, as an example, then make an active choice to make your relationship as healthy as it can be for your children because you're actively choosing to stay. Don't stay and moan. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So when I think about my environment, every time I have a bit of a mental niggle about, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or it's not fair, I just pull myself up and go, you chose this life.
Yep.
You are choosing this life. You have choices. Everybody has choices every day about what it is that they do. Now, there's some privilege as I say that, right?
Yep.
Enormous privilege. I've got some levers that I can pull that make things okay. But people have way more choice than they think they have on a daily basis. And I think that's sometimes when people feel stuck, they just get into the grind of there's nothing else that I could do differently. This is my environment. What can I? And I just want to encourage everybody. There is always a different way to approach what is your current reality.
I recently read a book and it's about decision making, and it was like, so if you've got A and B to choose from and it's only A and B, find C. To make sure that either A or B was the right choice, think outside the square, what else is there, and don't just sort of be like, I've only got this path or this path, because then you feel stuck. And then you start to have that gut feeling too of, you kind of know which one was the right one, but if you can introduce the third, you'll know really quickly, what else is out there, and you're starting to think wider.
It's often not binary. I had this funny experience last night before I went to sleep. This is a new thought. I don't know how it's going to come out. I am committed to learning to surf again. I surfed a little bit when I was younger, but badly, and never quite got the hang of it. But enough that sometimes I can stand up. Sometimes on a long board in a low wave. Yeah. And what I really understand about aging is I'm never going to be healthier than I am today.
Yes.
I'm on the downward. So now is my time. So I'm committed to doing, the last few years I've done lots of snowboarding because I love it and that's my thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait till I'm 60 and retire to go, I'll pick up that snowboarding again. My knees and hips are going to be worse off. Now, my time is now. Over the holiday period, I've done absolutely nothing about getting my new wetsuit, which is my Christmas present. I haven't bought it. I haven't found time. So last night, I'm like, you got to give it up. It's not happening for you. Where are you going to create the time? A is create lots of time and learn to surf. B is give it up. And last night, I went to sea. Because what we know about learning new things is you have to accelerate. Yeah. So get lessons, get a friend to help you, watch lots of YouTube clips. Don't just try and learn on your own. And you've got to be immersed in it. Yep. So you have to do it regularly. So in the night, my inspiration came. I can go and live in Hawaii for 3 months, do all of my work online, but every day go surfing. And when I come back to New Zealand, I'll be able to surf. And I've just cracked it. I've just solved it, just like that, right? All I have to do now is find the money, find somewhere to live, tell my husband. I've thought about ask my husband. I'm like, no, just tell my husband, right? Tell him. Now, is this ever going to happen for me? I don't know, but my brain just unlocked a completely... The issue is I live in Hamilton. We're not even on the coast.
Raglan.
Drive there, too much time. So I could go and live in Raglan, right?
That's
so
that could be your
silly example, but I was stuck in this. I can actually change it up.
You can.
Watch out!
Watch out, waves. I can't wait. In a year's time, I'm going to see you like.
And I'll be running because I'm going to be fitter from escaping the zombies.
Please get your husband to dress up as a zombie the day.
I have to be.
It's the real test.
When he attacks me with an axe. It was just to see if you'd run away. Okay, good.
We're channeling Scream too.
Yeah.
So what values do you hold strong as non-negotiables in any environment that you're in? Work, home,
justice.
Wherever. Yeah.
Is it justice? What is justice in this context? And employment relations, what is justice? Yeah. And customer satisfaction, what's fair? In society, what does justice look like?
Yep.
And, my parents were missionaries. We had our hearts for hearts are always with the underdog. Yeah. And what's really interesting now is as we've become more and more quote unquote successful and our business is successful, I can find myself slipping into these ideas that perhaps I deserve all of my success because I've worked hard. But, perhaps everybody should work a bit harder. And then I remind myself who was working the hardest, who was doing 3 shifts of factory work back to back to keep their family afloat, and how does our society reward that? How does our housing market make it enable for, and away you go. Yeah. And I go, there I go again.
Yeah.
There I go again. There is no justice in that. And, if there's no justice, there's no peace. Yeah. So justice is my thing. And, you wonder why I don't have friends. How boring is it? How exhausting is it?
It's true.
How exhausting is it?
But it's an incredible thing to hold true in environments and remind yourself of, because we do. I always say first world problems, and I will say that actively to myself. I don't know. My son smashed a bottle the other day, and I was like, I was just about to cook dinner and do all these different things, and I thought, and now you've just changed your trajectory, and I'm going to spend 45 minutes picking over everybody's glass. And I had to be like, first world problem. You live in a lovely home. You have all of the tools you need to tidy it all up. You have food actually already prepared in the fridge. It's just those sorts of things. It's just a glass bottle. Nobody got cut. Nobody died. Everyone's well. What do you? I have to often just, because you have this plan and it doesn't go to plan, and you're like, oh, no, hold a minute.
And it's also okay to have moments where our resilience is low.
Yeah,
I remember being really heavily pregnant, opening the door of my car, and a Dolmio jar fell out onto the concrete, smashed, and the sauce went everywhere. And I was like, I can't deal. And I rang Chris's cousin. I said, can you go and help me? I can't deal. I think it's okay to have moments where we do not need perfection, we just need progress.
Yeah, that's true. So you are a business owner, and you're also, like we were talking about, really, really concerned about our planet and doing the right thing. So talk to us about that kind of pull between our capitalist selves, I guess, and then in our planet and how we're trying to do well here.
This won't be a popular message, but here I go. Absolutely, for years and years and years, have been talking about these environmental issues. And Philip Mills from Les Mills years ago wrote a book called Fighting Globesity, and it was all about kind of the environmental challenges that we face, and I helped edit that book. And so this was literally 20 years ago, talking about these things. And people didn't want to know, people didn't want to hear. And there's, 20 years before that, people were talking about environmental issues. And we talk about saving the planet. The great irony, the planet will be fine. The planet will just go through a regenerative cycle. Yeah. It's human beings that aren't going to be fine, and it's animals that aren't going to be fine. And there's going to be apocalyptic scenes. We're experiencing just a tiny insight of that into Auckland now. So it's with no satisfaction that there's a bunch of us going, I told you so, we're trying to tell you, right? But what I also think is that the move to make people personally responsible for what is a global issue is again a distraction. Yeah. It's a great hoax, I believe. So if you panic about your plastic bag use, great. That'll just keep you continuing to do what you do now, and on an individual level, you'll probably still vote for the party that will cut your taxes and give less to the poor, not fix our infrastructure, but golly, aren't you doing good with your recycling program? Go you, right? There's 100 companies in the world that do the bulk of the polluting. The third world is just starting to pollute in the way the first world have for the last however long we've been doing it. So now that we've got our nice houses, oh no, we don't want you to also ruin the planet. So there's this great hypocrisy there. So until governments and massive multinationals get really serious about reducing their carbon footprint and using innovative technology to solve some of our environmental challenges, you freaking the hell out about how many plastic bags you're using isn't going to make a jot of difference. Which is not to say that we ought not be involved. Yeah. Do I think we should all use plastic bags? No. Yeah. Do I think we should use takeaway cups? No. Does coffee culture use compostable cups? Yes. Are there composting facilities in the cities we operate in? No. So it's this kind of, I think if everybody does the best they can on any given day, amazing. Yes, I think while you can have this personal responsibility, and we can all do more on a personal level, the most powerful things we can do is to demand more of our leaders, both corporate and political, and demand more of the organisations that we engage with.
Yeah. And I think too, noticing distractions, like you talked about earlier, it's really easy when there's a bomb going off over here to quickly put something over here so our eyes detract. So trying to be aware again of taking that step back to see what else is going on. And I feel like, I don't know what media outlet's doing it really well, potentially the spin-off, don't quote me, but they're actually going, what actually happened this week?
Yes.
And there's just these slides, and it's what actually happened this week. And you're like, I didn't even know that happened, because we're not being shown everything, or like I said, these shiny things start to take our attention. So it's that kind of stuff too, is like challenging media to give us it. Like we want to know what's going on.
Yeah. And I think what we get from the media is we get confirmation bias, so we find media about things we're interested in, but we also have a hugely disproportionate negative news to positive news. So we are going to know about the fires, the floods, the disasters in the world more than we are going to know about scientific breakthroughs, about people who are lifted out of poverty, about more girls in education, or there's never been a better time to be alive.
Yeah.
If you're a woman, now is the best time to be alive. We've got access to stuff we did not have. It doesn't mean that some of those freedoms aren't being taken away, and that's something we need to be conscious of as well.
So true. That's a very, very powerful thought. And then, of course, throughout the world, we're looking at those women who are fighting for what we think are just God-given rights.
Yeah.
Which are,
yeah,
to be fair. But you sit back and you're like, how are you fighting this fight? Why are we fighting this fight?
If only we could get our New Zealand teenagers to appreciate what girls in Afghanistan would give to be able to go to school.
Yeah.
We've got teenagers here going, I don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
Other places in the world, please let me go to school.
Yeah. So we'll move into portion distortion, which is what I learned from you a long time ago, and we talk about it with everyone, which is that regardless of who you are, what you're doing, business ownership, stay-at-home mum, anything in between, that time is our biggest challenge that can almost connect all of us, but we all have different challenges with it. So talk to us about some challenges you've faced with time and potentially some things you've put in place that have worked or you've tried to overcome those challenges.
So if your starting point is everyone has the same amount of time, we have different responsibilities within time. So we are already time poor because we're women, and there's expectations of how we dress and groom that give us less time every day. So I know some of my colleagues, when I was learning and studying overseas, they go, I don't think there's no kind of sexism. And I said, so we did that example of what time did you wake up to be ready for your lecture. I just want to explain to you what time I woke up to be ready for the lecture, based on the expectation this room has of how I show up in it, right? So just let's acknowledge that while I'm saying everyone has the same amount of time, no, everyone does not have the same amount of time based on your responsibilities. But we all have choices with how we use our time. So I want to start by saying I have no expertise in this. Zero. I am a work in progress, and I'm looking forward to the next 50 years of my life actually nailing some of these things. So I understand all of the theory, and I'm yet to get on top of the implementation of it. So some of the things that I am aware of is it's very rare that I will watch television that I do not want to watch. So I won't get sucked into just sitting and watching something that's mindless or that I haven't actively sought out. That gives me time back. I try to be conscious of the things that I repeatedly do that I don't need to repeatedly do. So I have a bunch of household management tasks that I'm yet to get on top of, but I'm going to get there. So I spend too much time every day thinking about what to have for dinner. Waste of time. What I need to do is meal plan once a week and tell everybody in the house this is what we're having, or crowdsource it, or So these are all simple things that lots of you listening will go, oh my God, are you not doing that yet? And I encourage you to stop judging me. But I'm looking for hacks all the time. So every time I'm doing something that could be automated, I'm thinking about that. So for example, we have a series of audits that we do in our coffee shops where we want to check that the coffee shops are meeting the various standards. So we want to send an email once a month. So rather than every month going, I need to send that email, you can actually just write the 12 emails in one go and schedule them to go on the first of every month. And that job is now done for the year. And I think with increases in technology, there's lots of opportunities to be really deliberate with the use of our time.
That's a really great, I always think that with invoicing. When you come to the end of the month, you're like, how can I make this better?
Well, the end of the month, that's the thing. It's not wait till the end of the month. It's just, hey, Siri, lady.
Sometimes it's not even necessarily hacks, because it's the same when we're trying to learn something, anything new. People try and find the easiest way to learn it, the fastest way possible, but sometimes it's not that. It's living through doing the doing, and then you find your own trick to it. But I don't think there's any hack like that works for everybody, for everything.
There's not one right way.
It's just, figure it out. We've got a meal plan. Sorry about
Shut
it.
up.
Sorry about it.
Wow,
But it
you're
works-
such
it
a
works-
show-off.
It works brilliantly, Sasha. And there's minimal food wastage because, like, I plan, like, say, a roast on a Sunday, and then we have leftovers of that for lunch on a minute, you know, whatever it is. But because otherwise we'd just order for ordering's sake, and then I'd stand there in the afternoon, overwhelmed, doing kids' homework and everything else, and you're like, I don't know what to do. And then something frozen would come out, and all my fresh veggies would just go to waste. Yeah.
Death of the veggie.
Yeah, the death of the veggies. So over your time, I'm going to reword that. How important is it for you to do things within your time that bring you joy?
Oh, so important. I recognised a couple of years ago that I'd stopped laughing. That I just, like, I laugh when I'm on stage. I'm telling my own jokes and laughing. But just in everyday life, where was the joy? Where was the abandonment of, you know, those where you laugh so hard that you cry, or that a little bit of wee comes out. Those are the moments that you love the most, and I didn't have enough of that. And so I started to actively recognise what made me laugh. So when I talk about the silly old Graham Norton clips, there was just a pursuit of joy. I started to look for particularly female comedians in New Zealand that I could support. I wanted to get active in where I spent my money to support others. That brought me joy. Just really making sure, like, not deprioritising joy. I'm a serious person, right? There's a paradox there where it's like I don't take myself at all seriously, but I take the work I'm doing seriously. And because of that, there's a risk that you just end up being a bit, planet's dying, and there's a lack of kind of life. And so I've been really committed to just bringing those things back. So I have joy when I dance, I have joy when I sing, I get joy when I play the piano, and I get joy being silly. I've got a few friends that I can be really silly with. And also, here is the not nice thing. I reckon everyone needs a friend that you can just say whatever you want about other people to. Because I have this, I will not comment publicly on how a person lives. I want to elevate the debate and only talk about the issues. Play the ball, not the man. And every now and again, I just for 10 minutes want to go, oh my God, did you see what she wore? What's she done with her lipstick? That guy. And I'm not sufficiently evolved to not need that. And when you can do that with freedom to know that it's safe and just kind of get all that out, that also brings me great joy. Can you believe it? Did you see what?
There's a meme that's going around about that at the moment. It's something like, my friends and I don't gossip about people, we solve, and it's the next part. I can't remember quite what it is, but just, I was like, I feel
just every now and again. Just what were they thinking?
Well, this has been amazing. I've got some quick fire questions for you.
Please.
To finish us off for the day. What are 3 things that made you smile today?
Oh, I slept last night, not in our shared bed. I slept in one of our spare room beds because, sleeping and not always straightforward. When I moved into it, we've had one of my son's friends has been staying there. And in the middle of the night, I put my leg out the side of the bed, and there's like the lacy edge that's supposed to be around my neck is at my feet. And I had this explosion of laughter to go, young men are the best. Young men in their 20s, the way they live, I love it. There's just such a complete disregard for the rules, which is that the lacy bit goes up the top. I thought this is such a great reminder that there are no rules. Put the lacy bit wherever you want. Set yourself free.
Your husband probably woke up going, where is that?
That was one thing, and that was enough. That was enough of a smile.
What are some of your favourite books?
Oh, I love books. I'm a book nut. I actually read a book for the second time without realising. That's how I know I'm losing my mind. So a fantastic book I've just read is called Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. I don't often read fiction, but that's a beautifully crafted story. I keep coming back to books by Cheryl Strayed. So Cheryl Strayed wrote Wild, which was a memoir that Reese Witherspoon made into a movie. She has a book of advice columns, and it's called Tiny Beautiful things. And when you read the letters she writes back to people who have asked for advice, they're beautiful, and many of my favourite quotes come from her. I love those books that you can just dive back into. Book that changed my life, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Dr. Stephen Covey. He's a Mormon with some funny ideas about some things, but those principles of how to be successful and not like in pursuit of financial success, but in pursuit of living a really good life. I found that very helpful as well. And Glennon Doyle's book Untamed. Untamed is just like, inject it into my veins. Yep. And we just need to be, I think it's one of those books that you read it and it's not telling you anything you don't know. It's just saying, run, you were born to run. And I find myself in moments sometimes when I'm speaking / preaching, because that's what I'm doing when I speak. It's just a sermon. It's a sermon from the front of the room. Yeah. Those moments where you go, this is what you were born to do. And I think the biggest joy people can get if you find the thing that you are here for, 100%. The incredible fulfillment that comes from that. Yeah. It feels almost selfish. Yeah. It feels almost selfish how good it is to give.
Yeah, I agree. And shout out to Glennon Doyle, I love that book. I was given that book as a gift and I was like, what a gift to give someone. Yeah. So I've given it to a few other friends because it's just an amazing. What was your first job?
Oh, so I had all the good jobs out of, when I was working at school. I worked at Food Town, which became Countdown, on the checkout. We used to get $3.42 an hour, time and a half after 6, double time on the weekends. I worked at a bakery, but my first job out of school was when I went and worked on reception at Les Mills in Auckland. So we used to have, maybe in the morning, 2,000 or 3,000 people would come through between 5:30 and 9 a.m. and I would have known 1,500 to 2,000 of their names. I loved it. Yeah. It was I got hooked on business and I got hooked on fitness through Les Mills. Amazing.
Wow. I can't wait for this one. If you're an animal, what would you be? She's not a fan of this question, whānau.
Well, it's that thing, right? There's a spectrum. So my natural instinct was to say sloth. I love resting. I have 2 speeds, on and off. Yeah. Right? So people go, how do you do it? You go all the time. And I'm like, hell no. Go, crash. Stop. That's a form of balance for me. Balance doesn't have to be every day I have a little bit of, balance can be go hard and rest. Yeah. And so I think in that respect, and I don't like the arrogance of saying this, but here I go, I'm a lioness. I'm a goddamn lioness. Because what they do is they hunt aggressively. They do not miss their target. They go hard. They provide for their family, and then they rest. And I think that kind of best sums up my approach. Go, full stop.
And care at the same time.
Yeah, and care. And your motivation for doing it is to be of service and of use to others.
Yeah. I love that. That's well thought out. That's a well thought out animal. What is your go-to pick-me-up song?
Oh, I love music. I'm a little bit superstitious. So I just want to share this with you. I have been on hundreds and hundreds of plane trips. So I've been lucky enough to travel a lot internationally for work, and I travel a lot domestically in New Zealand. Every plane trip I go on, I play a particular album, and I've done this for 20 plus years now, and no plane I've been on has ever crashed. And I don't know if these two things are related, but it feels like it's not ever going to be the right time to jinx it. Yeah. So that album, which is my go-to, and I love every song on it with my whole heart, is Mariah Carey's Christmas. And it starts with Silent Night, and then the second song is All I Want for Christmas Is You, and it has some real bangers. Holy Night, Santa Claus is coming to town, Joy to the World. And while it pains me on some level because of how distinctly uncool it is, every time spirits lift.
It brings me joy.
Amazing.
What is your favourite country you've travelled to, and why?
My favourite country that I've travelled to is New Zealand, because there is nothing quite like having been overseas in far-flung parts of the world, it used to be when you got to Heathrow. Now in New Zealand don't go to Heathrow, so it's either Singapore or Los Angeles or Chicago, Houston, and you first board that flight and it's an Air New Zealand plane, having been away, and as you step on the plane, the people say, "Kia ora, welcome aboard," and you just go, "I'm home," even though you're not quite home. And then you land in New Zealand and you come through and you hear the bird song at the airport. And New Zealand's a long way from a lot of places, but it's only ever about 40 hours away from everywhere with travel, which is bad for the environment. However, whenever I come home, I just feel so enormously lucky that this is the place that I was born and raised. We have a pioneering spirit and an openness to the world, and I love that.
That's so
and,
cool.
and it's crazy beautiful here, which makes it crazy dangerous, but we're doing okay. Earthquakes, floods, volcanoes. We're okay.
All the rest of it, we're gracious. What is the best piece of advice you've ever heard?
You can do it.
You can do it. Oh, Nad,
You can do it.
Oh, yes. Adam Sandler movies. Qualities you love about yourself.
So I'm really good in a crisis, and that's been necessary over the last few years. It's been a useful quality to have. So I'm really pleased that that's something that's built in for me. I'm good when the going gets a bit tough.
Yeah, and I think not just for things that have gotten tough for you and for your businesses, but you've also been a really positive light and voice for others in crisis. You know, like, who would have predicted a lockdown in 2020? And I'd met you just before that. And so being able to sort of, I talked to you a few times during that time and just see what you were posting and what, you know, how you were talking and just how you were dealing with your staff and how you were, when you show up for them, what does that look like? And what you were doing during the pandemic in terms of upskilling them, things like that. Like, those things matter. And so though you may not necessarily be like, right, my advice for you guys while you're in crisis is by showing what you were doing and sharing that mattered.
Thank you. And there is one thing I would like to say, if you don't mind. I don't enjoy actually doing things like this at all, because I heard you say that I'm an exceptional leader, and I don't rebuke that from, I don't think it's, I'm not, I just think we're all here in this together doing the best we can with what we've got on any given day. And I think it's really good to have role models and people that we look up to. But I think it's really important that we don't put people on pedestals, because we're all just doing our stuff. And I make mistakes every day. And every day I look back and go, oh, you blew that one. But I think the biggest gift we can give ourselves is just to hold that lightly. I was doing the best I could, and I get to go again tomorrow. And I think that's a powerful message for our young people. We make mistakes, but we pick ourselves up and we go again. There's always a new day.
100%. And to put sunshine on the mistakes. What did you learn from it? And then do we keep going on that track, or do we change? It's pretty strong. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments. Please share it with someone that you know is going to love this, and I know this is going to be loved by so many people. And check out some of the other videos on our website, and we'll see you again soon. Ka kite.